What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Outside Interference with me, the RRGB Eddie Torres, and I am being joined today by my WWE correspondent, Mr. Eddie Furth. Welcome back to the show, brother. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing? For life.
For
For life.
life. Yeah, brother. We are here to discuss what was the crown jewel and the road to War Games that we're on right now. What did you think, before we get into each match and break it all down, what did you think of this pay-per-view overall for yourself?
So, since they've started doing these premium live events from overseas, right? All these crown jewels and biggest Royal Rumble, I've loved them because they feel like the old Madison Square Garden house shows I used to go to growing up that were on MSG Network, where you get what seemed like this massively loaded live house show feel. And in this case, it just feels amped up to the nth degree, right? The criticisms I've heard against them are nothing real happens in them. They're not a real event, and all of this other stuff. But like, I find that to me, they're not like the Survivor Series, the Summer Slams, the WrestleManias, but you get something that's just a little outside the lines, right? We've gotten Goldberg and Undertaker. We've gotten DX return, all these little things that are just completely unique to those shows that I love every time. Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns, and then we'll get to it now. Obviously, Logan Paul winning the U.S. title, like it's got that house show feel, but just turned up to a whole nother level. I always love them, and this one did not disappoint. I had a lot of fun watching this one.
I agree. It's I feel like they're starting to mean a little bit more. With, like you said, the Logan Paul winning a title, like that's a big deal. They don't typically exchange championships on house shows. I mean, it happens once in a while, but not very often. But yeah, I think overall it was a great pay-per-view. I love the morning pay-per-views. I'm an old man now, so nothing better to me than a cup of coffee and some wrestling in the morning on a Saturday. Yeah.
It is such a cool feeling to wake up in the morning and at 10 a.m. you're like, I'm settling in for a couple hours of a pay-per-view. That is, it's like Saturday morning wrestling, but also turned up. Now it's like going to the movies and seeing a matinee, right? You're done with the movie and they're like, oh, I still got a whole day left. I got more shit I can go do. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, by the way, that's how I watch movies now in the theater. I only go at 10 or 11 a.m. Like, I'm
Same,
not
same.
wasting my night on that. I got comedy and things to do.
Yeah.
So one thing I will take them down a notch on is that I think a lot of people were expecting some big surprises, perhaps a Jade Cargill interference, perhaps a Randy Orton returning. There's even the outliers that were perhaps expecting a CM Punk, even though most common people know it'll be at Survivor Series if it happens. So I'll give them that there weren't a lot of like big surprises. I mean, the big surprise was Miz TV with a random comedian actor from Saudi Arabia,
Yeah, he did so much for what he had to do. It was amazing. I don't know who the guy is.
Never
That was
heard of
my
him.
first introduction to him, and I was like, "Yo, you understood the assignment, nailed it. Like you got it. You swung, you hit it, you did exactly what you needed. You looked better than you had any need to look in that moment. It was awesome. I thought he did amazing. What was his name again? I forget his name. I should know his name
It's a
now, but
three-word name. 3 words. I
yeah.
know it's 3 words. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it makes me realize how little I know about popular culture, because I'm sure he's huge in Saudi Arabia, but I'm sure there's people here that know who he is. But same goes with, like, when Poppy started showing up in NXT. I had no idea who that was, and
Yeah.
I was like, all right, whatever. I let it ride. But yeah, I saw some people online talking trash that it was like the worst looking People's Elbow. I'm like, I don't know, man. Snoop Dogg was pretty bad.
But in the history, if you're going back to this carnival atmosphere, this three-ring circus, and sometimes you have these celebrity guests pop in to do something. They are not there to look amazing. They're there to entertain. That is the halftime show, if you will. And anytime somebody shows up, especially a non-athlete like a Snoop Dogg or somebody, and they do something that is entertaining, that's what they're brought. Liberace did a kick line at WrestleMania 1. He
Oh,
was not taking bumps in the ring, right?
that's true.
It's
That's
not
true.
their job is to come. And that's why whenever somebody does that, even Johnny Knoxville's match at Mania a couple years ago, I'm like, when you fit into what you're supposed to do, I love it. I'm there for it.
His name is Ibrahim Al Hajjaj. Good.
Ibrahim. I remember texting my friend Kevin immediately. I was like, man, Ibrahim understood the assignment. He nailed that. He got it
Yeah,
done.
I applaud Miz for not botching the name because I'm sure he found out like day of. It felt like that segment was kind of put together that morning. Like, hey, we need a little time to kill. Miz wants to do something. Let's grab the biggest star we can from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So good on
Yeah.
Miz for not botching that and getting himself in a situation over there. All right, so let's dive into some of these matches. The internet was very happy to see the kickoff shows coming back to the PLEs. I don't really care. Especially JD McDonough versus Sammy. It feels like a Monday Night Raw match that could have happened any Raw. I didn't even watch it, to be honest. I just saw the highlights. So I assume, Sammy won. Whatever. Good match, I'm sure.
He
They're
won with
both
a
good
blue
work.
thunder bomb.
Blue Thunder.
The winning with the blue thunder bomb is awesome because he's opening up the repertoire of moves that'll finish a match. It is. It's like a kickoff show is like a good house show, TV show segment. You knew who was going over in that one, and JD McDonough is better than I expect him to be. And Sammy, especially when you look at Monday Night Raw, Sammy is right. It kind of felt like after that Roman Reigns program, he might have cooled a little bit, but he's catching the stride now that was built off the back of that, right? It shows us what a long-term process building a star and a character really is, because now is when Sammy is on television saying, I'm a world championship contender. I'm going to make my name outside of all of these things you've known. And that Roman Reigns rub, that program we did, this is where it's paying off. It was actually athletic, and he's looking amazing, man. Sammy's on a roll right now.
He looks great in the ring. The crowd is behind him, but honestly, from an outsider's perspective, though, like it seems like a downgrade. Like you went from main eventing with Roman to kickoff opener with JD, who nobody really cares for right now. I like JD. I know he's got some controversy. I don't even know the full details of it. He almost got like fully canceled when he was in NXT or something.
Like the character or the actual wrestler?
The guy, the person. He did something, and people were trying to cancel him, but apparently the charges were dropped. I don't know the details, but I've been following him for a while in the Indies. Like I have pictures with him at PCW Ultra. Good dude to me every time I've seen him, but again, I don't know anything about the allegations. But my point is, it felt like a downgrade for Sammy. And then also to have it follow up with a loss on Monday Night Raw for the title. Like, hey, yeah, you're a world championship contender. Here you are having a match and you lost clean. Kind of, right? Was it clean? Did someone interfere on Raw?
So I think that world title match on Raw was the second star-making performance that I saw this weekend. In that a face versus face, two good guys squaring off for the title is both hard as a story to get into and hard to get out of, where you're accomplishing what the story is. And I actually, partway through the Seth and Sammy promo, I was against it at first. I was like, this is a very soft reason to do this. And then they tied it together, and then they amped it up a second level in the promo, which really sold it to me. And that face versus face match felt like it felt like Sean and Brett. It felt like this baby versus baby match. Two good guys trying to actually outcompete each other and say, I'm that good. And the finish was a roll up, which is, it puts everybody over. It's a wrestling move where the world champion is just that much better than the contender, but the contender rolled with them. And a clean victory isn't bad because it wasn't decisive in a way that said Sammy can't compete with him. It was even through the first commercial break. Through the second break, Sammy's got Or Seth's got control of the match and he's in the lead, and then it's coming back and forth. Sammy's putting on. If you want, I watched that whole match back. A whole he's proving himself. He's holding his own. He's athletic. He's exciting. He's dynamic. And it was only that one little roll up right there, just by a split second. A roll up is a great way for a babyface contender to lose when we see that they're going to be on the same team again, and then Sammy's going to come back around and contend again. He's going to say, you got me by this much. Let's go again." I think, in fact, if you're playing this right, Sammy and Seth are heading towards the potential for an Iron Man match that would be awesome.
That would be interesting.
This is the kind of program I could see you put an Iron Man match as the go home between the two, the
yeah,
finish.
I mean, it would be cool. I would like to see Sammy with gold, but again, it's just I don't know, man. There's always that little thing in the back of my head that I heard. I think it was Vince or one of those said that he's just not. He's not the guy, and even though I don't believe that, that's in my head. And every time shit like this happens, or like, oh, he's on the kickoff. Oh, he lost on Raw. Oh, well, he's not the guy. I guess they're not gonna let you. They're not gonna let him be the guy. It's not gonna happen. So maybe I'm just pessimistic on that case, but he does look great, and like I said, the crowd's behind him, and I think JD is starting to get over with this whole, Judgment Day. Will he? Won't he join? I think eventually he'll join and kick Finn out. I think that's what's gonna happen.
I that would be interesting. I think of Sammy as a Mick Foley type. I think he is so relatable to us as viewers, to regular people, right? He's not super heroic. He is, I work hard, I had to learn the craft, and I am going to overcome those odds. And I don't know if Sammy is a Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns style quote unquote face of a company, but I think he's a world champion, and I think he's a, forgive the term, people's champion. I think he's a champion of the people, you know that guy who we all relate to, and when we see him succeed, we feel like we can succeed.
True, true. Well, speaking of Seth Rollins, he defended his World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre. Great match. Hell of a way to start the pay-per-view. I think I posted, I feel bad for Drew because I really did. I want him to have his moment, man. I do. And I'm kind of tired of Seth Rollins. Like, he's a great worker. He's amazing. But enough. Let's, move the belt to someone else and let them be the workhorse for a little bit, whether it's Sammy or Drew. But I forget who I heard. I believe it was Wrestle Talk, one of the guys from England, mentioning that Seth Rollins is the guy even though he's a face, the wrestling fan tends to root against him. Like, every time he's in a match, you're like, well, I think this is where Sammy wins, or I think this is where Drew wins, or I think this is where, like, we always think he's going to lose, and he keeps not losing. So it was a great match, though. I thought this would have been Drew's moment, but oh well. Maybe he joins the Judgment Day. I saw that little look Rhea gave him at the end.
I can understand what you're saying. I had a moment with that on Monday night. I think Seth. I think Seth is looking. I think it's getting close to that moment where he's going to lose the title and he's going to go away temporarily to refresh, which is very well earned. He has been running. I mean, he's been around working hard and present through a lot, doing a lot of stuff for a while now. And he'll be served well with a small break, not because he's not doing well, but because that break with the character will be very useful. It was Monday night. There was a moment he pointed for his ear for them to start chanting, and they didn't come in with the chant as soon. They weren't as hot for him as some of the other crowds and some of the other moments, and you can see that cresting. I can certainly see it's almost his time to lose this belt. He's elevated this world title the way he was supposed to, and somebody else. You and I messaged you, and I felt like the odds were high that Damian Priest might lose clean to Cody and then come in and cash in and win the world title at the event. The minute I saw that Seth was on first, I was like, it doesn't make sense because he's going to cash in right after. That tease on the cash in, I thought was incredibly well done because what a great way to use that briefcase in the storyline. It's always present as an option, and you just keep holding it off. But for a split second, we thought he was cashing in again. I love those teases. I think I love it. I think Damian Priest cashes in on a Monday night when we least expect it, when Rollins is down, and steals it from him while he's out of commission, on a stretcher out of commission. Like, it'll be really useful. Drew looked massive. Drew looked bigger than ever. He must be gearing up for something.
Yeah,
And when
that's true.
Seth does come back, I think for me, I'm in agreement that there's this thing of rooting for him or not rooting for him. I think he's so great as a heel. I would love to see him go away and come back in a really solid heel run again. Heel Seth is great.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like the Miz, where I'm happy for the Miz that the crowd's into this babyface run right now, but also he's a better heel. Like babyface Miz never works, like
Yeah.
in the long run. Um, and I messaged you too. I'm like, imagine Priest cashes in, and then it's for the belt, Priest versus Cody. You know what I mean? And that would have been sweet. And I for a second there, I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna happen, and then it didn't happen. So I thought that was exciting that they popped me with that one. Um, After that, we had the Fatal 5-Way with the women. Rhea Ripley defeated Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Raquel Rodriguez. I think everybody had that. I don't think anybody was predicting any of those other women taking the title away from Rhea in Crown Jewel. I will say that there was a missed opportunity, and I think it was because Rhea is so respectful, even though her character is not, but her personality as a person. When she did that, I think it was a power bomb off the ropes on top of the girls. Then she had 3 girls stacked. She should have pinned all 3 girls. That's the dominant Rhea. You know what I mean? Just and I took them all out. But instead, she cleared the pile and pinned Shayna, which I thought was like, oh well, that's out of respect, I'm sure, but also that would have been such a cool look,
That and you messaged me. She's the best. You said she's the greatest women's wrestler of all time.
For me, yes, yeah,
Over, and this will be the forever debate in my mind, over Charlotte, because I have Charlotte as I have. We've talked about this a bit. I thought Charlotte at a certain point would have been a perfect candidate to win the WWE Championship in the right match. I thought Charlotte was at a level for a while that was so far and above. Where do you put Charlotte and Rhea, and how do you think they match up? Why does Rhea take it over Charlotte in your eyes?
I think part of it for me is how young Rhea is and how much she's done with how young she is already, which means how much more is she going to do down the road when she's Charlotte's age. Um, Charlotte has kind of, to me, lost her stock over the years with this whole hot potato stuff, which, I know eventually it's going to lead to her hopefully becoming the 16-time champion or 17 times so she can beat her dad's record and all that. But there's been a lot of hot potatoing. There's been a lot of like touch and go moments with her. She disappears. She comes back. She's a face for some reason with no explanation. And even though she's another one of those where she's better as a heel, she just has the bitch face. Just fucking work with it. You know what I mean? Even if you're not that person, you have the face. So I don't know. Charlotte had a really great run between like her later NXT days and her early main roster days. But I feel that has fallen off over the years. Whereas Rhea, I just see an infinite amount of potential. Plus, there's also the behavioral, just the way that she carries herself. Charlotte felt always to me like, I'm good because I'm a Flair. Where Rhea is like, I'm just going to kill everyone that's here. And it's just like a different level of confidence, a different level of performance, and also just even looks. I want to see Rhea on the TV. And it's not just because, she's pretty face, but I tune in to see a Rhea match. I never tuned in to see a Charlotte match unless it was a pay-per-view. Like, if it was on TV, I'll watch the highlights. But on pay-per-view, I'll watch that, because I'm in for the pay-per-view. But on TV, anytime Rhea's on TV, even if it's just a talking segment, I usually turn the channel for Charlotte promos because it's always the same shit. I'm the queen. I'm the best. Woo! And that's it. There's nothing interesting in the promos. Rhea, for some reason, her mingling with the men, like trying to recruit people and like, just the different little tiny little things that are happening already, that it's just going to get better over the years. That's why I think Rhea will be the greatest of all time.
I can certainly understand and agree with a lot of it. I think she has the potential to be the greatest women's wrestler of all time, and is on that trajectory as we speak. I think for me, Charlotte holds that spot at the moment. I do agree. Charlotte has, as a character, has crested a bit and has not, almost feels like since WrestleMania 35 hasn't been the same. But that run from NXT to WrestleMania 35, what she was doing, how she was doing, the promos she was cutting, how real she made it all feel. That loss to Becky in the Royal Rumble that year, where she, there was a great document series, one of those documentaries they did, and after the match, Charlotte's in the back crying her eyes out, and you're like, okay, either one, you're a good enough performer to still play to this camera right now, or this actually meant something to you and you wanted to go down in history as the person who won this. And either way, it was a level of commitment I liked. I think Charlotte currently is certainly is a character that feels very on and off. She's not nearly as consistent on my screen, but I tune in because there's always something very real about what she's doing. But yeah, Rhea is right now, Rhea is one of the top, what, three attractions in WWE. I watch Roman, LA Knight is on fire, and Rhea Ripley is something to tune into every week. I would watch Rhea's segments over Cody's segments, like in terms of priority. I'm watching all of it, but like I want to see what Rhea did this week before I want to see what Cody did this week, and that's not even a knock on Cody. That's how good Rhea is operating right now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think the right choice was made. I would have just gone with that one little detail. Having her pin all the girls at once would have been great.
That's good.
After that, we had John Cena and Solo Sikoa. And also, by the way, I'm looking at the WWE website right now with the card, just so I can have the notes. It says John Cena defeated Solo Sikoa.
Does it really?
Whoops. That's not what happened at all.
No.
Yeah.
And in our picks, we talked about this. We talked about whether he'd win. Yeah. And I was of the belief that the best, not only is he able to put Solo over, Solo has that win. We get to build even more to this. I haven't won on television since 2018. Now I think you get a chance to give that some meaning, which is cool, because it'll most likely, when he wins, will be one of the last times he's on television for a while, if ever,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I was taking a picture of that just for future reference.
Yeah, keep that one. When they say he won and we're like, but he did not win.
He did not. He got destroyed at the end with 5, 6, 7, I don't know how many, 11 fucking Samoan spikes.
It was 9 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert out there.
So look, I think my issue, why I thought the way I thought with my pick with John Cena, is based on my history with John Cena. I wasn't a Cena fan growing up. I never liked him. I kind of missed his whole Thugonomics run. I wasn't watching at the time. To me, John Cena sucked. Like the chance that everybody, I hated him. I was like, this guy sucks. He always misses the 5-knuckle shuffle. He calls the moves way too loud, way too obviously. Like, all right, go to the top rope. It's like, we're looking right at you, dude. But I think that in my mind, I was like, if he loses this, he's done. But I forget the value of John Cena, like where he's at in the general audience's perspective of John Cena. And when I put myself in those shoes, it makes sense to put Solo over, to build him up as a star, to give him that rub, to give him the shine. He looked great. I've been a fan of Solo since the main roster jump. I think from the presentation from beginning to end, I love the entrance. He seems like a badass. I work out to the freaking Taking It All song because it just pumps me up. I feel like a badass. So I like Solo. So I'm glad he won. I'm surprised they went with that, destruction at the end. But I guess they're trying to make a point. Maybe John's going back to work in Hollywood.
It felt to me like this was the last, because we heard John was coming back for a certain run.
Mm-hmm.
right? It felt like this was the original planned end to that run. And he might still have, he's like, I might still have a few left. Like, we'll see him a little more maybe because they're not back in production just yet. But it certainly felt like this was if they came in, they're like, what are we doing? Well, we'll do this program, we'll do LA Night, we'll do this. And that at Crown Jewel, you'll put Solo over and then you'll go away till the Rumble or something. And I still feel like he'll be around, maybe not this week or next week, but in another week or two, it'll still, I think he'll be at Survivor Series. I got to imagine. Um, yeah, I think he's also very conscious of trying to do this as right and respectfully and as professionally as he can, because we've seen people in the wrestling business who have a name and have value and have not been ready to give that up when it's the time to give the next people their shot. And I think Cena has always seemed very conscious that it was his job to put the next people over, that he built that name to then let people beat to build their name. And that eventually, since he's going away and he's not, it doesn't hold the same value to him anymore. Nobody in Hollywood is caring that he's going to lose a match at
Right.
Crown Jewel, but it means something to that guy. So his 20-year career is valuable to be able to put the next people over. And I wouldn't want to mention any names, but I think he saw people like Hogan coming in and not being willing to lose on television for what? It didn't damage that you were considered that great, but it didn't help anybody going forward. So what was the point? You're not really protecting the name. Right? Cena, doesn't matter if he loses to Solo, he's still Cena. He's going to go in the Hall of Fame. You would believe, I put it this way, you'd believe John Cena in a championship match anytime in the next year.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, of
Yeah.
course, he's Cena. That's a championship caliber match. He might win this time. He might beat the record this time. Doesn't matter that he lost for the last 3 years. And that value is so beautiful that it's built and that he's allowing it to exist and give and pass on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was the other thing too, the fact that he hasn't won a singles match in almost, 2000 plus days. Like how many times until he loses that value? But I guess never, because he's that cherished in the community. By the way, I like Cena now. Growing up I didn't like him. Now I like him, and I think mostly due to his acting. And I know everybody they don't like his acting, but I think it was hilarious. I've enjoyed everything he's been in. And that has made me, in turn, when I see him on TV, I'm like, oh, hey, it's Cena. Nice.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I think a lot of people were asking the question, like, is this his retirement? My wife even, she was like, is this it? I'm like, no. He didn't take his sneakers off. I feel like if he would have taken the
He
sneakers...
didn't. He'll leave the jorts in there.
Oh,
When he takes the jorts off and puts them down, that's when we'll know.
That's when we'll know. You think he'll have the prototype trunks underneath? He'll go back to the prototype trunks.
I think this is going. I would, if it were me, or if you're asking conceptually, I think it's WrestleMania. I think this goes until Mania, and I think he wins that match. That would be the first win, and then he retires. If that's what we're looking at, if this is truly a retirement, I don't know what he's really looking at in his life and how they use him. But if we're looking towards a wrapping up of the career, one more victory on television, it might be a Rumble or a Mania, and then you kind of walk away and put the boots in the ring kind of occasion. That I could see it. I could see that at Mania next year.
Yeah, that could be fun. Up next, we had a United States Championship match. Logan Paul, the new champ, over Rey Mysterio, which I think I picked. I don't know. I believe you picked Logan Paul.
Yeah.
It was the right move. He's young and he's doing great, and in the social media ramifications and all of that. And it wasn't a clean win. He used the Nux, which for a second, I was like, this could be, I keep feeling a heel turn for Santos Escobar. I thought so too. He's going to eventually turn on Rey. But when he put the Nux,
I think this might have been that start because he did it on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, he put him right there, like, not near Rey at all. So I was like, maybe it would. I thought it would have been a full heel turn, but maybe this is just a tease of that. And that sets off Santos and Rey into a program into Mania, I think. That would be nice. But yeah, I think the right call was made. It was a great match. Logan saved Rey's life mid-match, which was crazy because that flip, he would have landed straight down on his head and ruined his life. But he caught him. My wife thought it was a botch on Logan's part, and I'm like, no, it's actually, I think Ray just overshot or undershot the flip. But yeah, props to him. Right move. I think it went over well.
Man, Logan Paul is so impressive across the board. Like his character and his mic work are so strong. I think it's even easy to underlook how good he is in the ring. He is not just athletic, but his timing, his movements, everything still looks and feels so real. I know this will be a reductive way to put it, but he's so much better than he has any right to be at this point. But and we all know I don't even think he's as much of an asshole as we truly believe him to be in real life, but the character works so well that it's incredibly entertaining. It's the right kind of heat. We're always rooting against him, but not because we think he's an asshole in the wrong way, because he's just that engaging and entertaining. It's just a testament. I love that he won. I think he should be world champion one day as well. I really think he should be a world champion. But this is such a great title to have on him. He's such a great addition to this company and he's crushing it. The one thing I do want to see from him, I would love if he just started randomly calling the US title the American Championship. Like just a weird little heel thing of like, this is the American Championship, right? This is not the
Yeah.
US title. I'm the champion of America. There's something about that would just feel such a heel move.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That'd be fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and like I want to point out the reason I think he's an asshole is prior to his work in WWE, his stuff in the YouTubes and fucking around with suicide forests and people in Japan. Like, dude's not a good guy. Maybe wasn't a. Let me rephrase that. Dude was not a good guy back in the day. Might be a good guy now. Cool, that's fine. But I hate him for who he was up to this point, and I enjoy him because of who he is now. And I hope he continues to grow. I hope he continues to be an example of, WWE superstars are supposed to be role models. Not the heels so much, but like, growing up, you think Hogan say your prayers and your vitamins and like, they're supposed to be role models. So hopefully he takes that to heart, whether he's a heel or a face, and just starts doing better work in the real world to kind of recover his reputation a little bit, and continue to shine in WWE for sure. Because I don't want to like him, but I do now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's made a lot of questionable moves. He's been controversial in the wrong ways, which is why we know when I say he's not an asshole, I mean, he's not somebody who seems like he's going to business in for himself
Oh,
in
right,
those
right.
situations. He knows he's coming and playing in other people's areas and doing it the right way to get the right heat in those instances while working with people and doing the right job here, as opposed to, because that's what we do know. We do know he is as broy of an asshole as he comes off, but I like him for the work he's doing it and how he's capitalizing it and what he is bringing to the table with that, and is not acting like he's too big for this company or too good for it. He's here and he's doing it honestly. He's doing real work here, despite the fact that he could have come in and he could have been like, I'm too good for all of this, and that would have been a really hard pill to swallow and work with. But he seems like he's respectful towards. He's taking seriously the work he's doing with them.
Yeah,
That goes a long way.
and shout out to the. I think he's the only one that got a special entrance
Yeah.
with the car thing in the desert, and he drove it
Yeah.
in. Pretty cool. I miss those, like Triple H with a motorcycle and like a bunch of Terminators and.
Yep.
All right. After that, we had the WWE Women's Championship match with Io Sky defeating Bianca Belair. The one fucking time I picked Bianca to win. Every time throughout the entire history of Comedy Store Wrestling when I was doing that show, I always said, it's time for Bianca to lose. It's time for her to drop the belt. And now is the time. And then this time I'm like, you know what? She's going to win because they're going to prep her for the Jade Cargo match. Nope. So the one time I pick her to win, she loses. We had the return. I was going to say debut, but return of Kairi Sane, which the crowd did not give a single fuck about. I don't think they even knew who she was and or
Yeah,
remember her because she looked different too. That's the thing. You know, she
yeah.
left us. She left us as the pirate girl, and came back as like Io Sky 2.0, basically. I don't know.
Yeah. Uh, they're they'll set up what they need to with that one. Clearly Jade and Bianca are on a collision course. So if what they're telling me is they're going to hold it off a little longer, they're going to build it a different way. Because I had the same thing. It felt like the time, especially because that women's title, the world title is going to stay with Rhea for so long. It seemed like the right moment that WWE women's title was going to go to Bianca. But if it's not now, it'll be some other machination later, and that's the you don't want those things jumping too often, and they got to mean something. So there's just another way. But I had the same thing. I thought Bianca was winning this one. I thought it was just the right moment with her coming back, with her building it up, and
Oh well, I mean, it was a
we'll
good
see.
match. It was a good match.
Yeah.
You know, despite the crowd not caring, I blame the Saudi audience, not the performers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good match. I guess earlier I said there were no surprises. Kyrie returning was a surprise, even though a lot of the internet buzz was there. Everybody knew she was coming, and it was
Mm-hmm.
happening, and so it wasn't that big of a surprise. But it does seem like we're going to get a break off of Damage Control because it seemed like there was a disconnect there with Bailey and Io, and then Io and Kyrie are probably going to pair off and separate, and then they'll have some kind of Survivor Series tag
Mm-hmm.
match or something like that. Um, Not much else I can say about it, honestly.
Yeah.
To be fair. After that, we had Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest. Cody Rhodes, shout out to that awesome new coat with the velvet. Looked nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping this is the beginning of Cody getting back to the story, and then I get the notification that we're getting another tag match with him and Jay. What's happening? What's happening to Cody, dude? What are they doing? They have I know they gotta like delay it to Mania, but like this? Like, oh my god. Way to start.
Is your thought they're still going to Cody beating Roman at WrestleMania? Because I don't think that that's where this is going to begin with.
I think that's what's happening. I mean, that's the backstage rumors, the plans. I know plans change, and I know those were Vince's plans and Tripp's in charge. But he has to finish the story, or else all of this was for what? You know, he has to finish it eventually, and I don't know how much longer he can maintain by doing random tags with Jey Uso and maintain momentum and the crowd behind him because the people were really behind him when he debuted and when he returned and all this stuff. But it seems to be kind of like mellowing. It's starting to the temperature is starting to drop. And can we coast through another Mania without Cody finishing the story? I don't know. I don't know.
You know what Vince McMahon would say about that, though? You know
The,
what he would say? He'd
the
say,
story
"Well,
never ends,
goddamn,
pal.
kid, if he loses and they don't love him, he was never really over to begin with.
Oh
Oh,
my
if he
god.
needed the championship to be over, he was never over." And in a sense, that's right. In the idea that Cody is essentially the superstar. He's the top baby face in that company, essentially. If you're telling me that the only way Cody is useful is if he's the champion, the argument could be made that he's not even that over to begin with. Because if he is over, then he's the guy regardless, and that's what really matters. Which means he can win that championship at any point, and it's still part of that story. And or what was Dusty really known for? Getting close and never really. He's champion, yes, but he wasn't reliant on being the champion all the time. That's not what an underdog baby face's story is always about. So I think it's a good balance between those two in recognizing like he doesn't have to win and he doesn't have to win immediately for it to mean something, and he doesn't need to be champion or in a main event spot in that vein because he's going to be in war games, and that's what it's going to be centered around. That is the number one baby face in the company, and
Mm.
he is in fact I was not as high on Cody when he first returned. I am higher on him now than I was when he first came back. I thought when he first came back, it was an assumed push, and I was like, well, I'm not buying in yet. You can't just show up number 30 and win a Rumble. You can't just come in against Seth and me believe that all of a sudden you're supposed to be champion. I'm still not convinced he's the guy to end Roman's streak to begin with. I think there's a lot of other people who you could make that case for that's stronger to me. So if you're still building him, one, he is the number one go-to baby face. The storylines are still revolving around him, if not the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Champion. It's the World Champion. And how does that all mean? It's it's valid if he wins 2 years from now and he beats somebody else. There's still a storyline to go with. I don't think we should get hyper fixated on the finishing the story and it's got to be by WrestleMania or it means nothing. It still means something. SummerSlam next year still means something. And there's still ways to get him there for Mania. There's still plenty to do between that now and then.
Well, I think that's you see it this way, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just I think you see it this way because you're a WWE guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's your product, right? Like I've been following Cody's since his departure, the Bullet Club days, building AEW up. To me, the story for Cody was he's a superhero. He looks like Homelander. You know what I mean? Like he's Captain America, and he's coming from the rival company to save WWE from Roman Reigns. That was the
Mm-hmm.
story to me, not Dusty's kid enduring hardship and hard times. Like I get that's his personal story, but as an outside viewer, somebody who's a fan of AEW and WWE, the story in my head was here comes the AEW guy to save WWE from Roman's, long, boring, monotonous reign. Which not all of it was boring. The Bloodline stuff was great, but you know what I mean. That was the
Mm-hmm.
perspective, and to me, he failed the first attempt. That's fine. WrestleMania 40, he has to win, or that story's dead to me. And like we go back to like hard times, and then eventually he'll become champion. He'll be like, oh cool, look, Cody won, great. But the main, I don't know. It's kind of like it's disappointing to me if he doesn't succeed at that. And like he could drop it the next day on Raw. I wouldn't care. We need that superhero to defeat the villain. Or not we. I need the superhero to defeat the villain for it to make any sense, or else it's just kind of like floating and like whatever, and like, oh, put him in a fucking tag match with Jey Uso. Who cares? Like, that's what it feels like to me.
I totally understand that. I think that if we look at it as a television show first and foremost, he's not coming in as the AEW guy to save the day. And on this TV show, that character is going towards something, and he spelled out the goal. How he gets there, it is absolutely delayed. This feels like that part in Lost where they were talking about Nikki and Paolo episodes because they extended Lost, and they're like, well, we got to fill some episodes somehow. But I would say the majority of WWE viewers are not looking at him going, oh, I watched him tour the world and was waiting for him to come finish this. We remember him leaving as Stardust. He went and made a name for himself out and came back fully realized he grew up as a person and he came back grown up. And now he's setting out to right the wrongs of his history, which, if we're going on basic TV storylines, a son trying to rewrite their father's shortcomings is a great classic storyline, which is still in there no matter what he's doing. And in fact, may even be able to be heightened when it comes time. And he's like, guys, I got distracted by success. I won these tag titles and I could tell myself it still felt good. I could tell myself that I was a champion, but I got to admit, I was lying to myself the whole time. I have to go out. I have to do this not just for Dusty, not just for my family. I got to do this for me. That's a whole other level where you can use this sidetrack because it definitely feels sidetracked from what they were first doing with him. And I don't know where he goes and when. It just doesn't. He's not the guy I first think of as ending Roman's run because I'm a big Roman guy and I think that the value in his title reign is large and it can be played right. given the circumstances. That's a big one to me. I'm a big Roman guy, and this streak to me is very large and should be ended the right way.
So who is it for you? Who's the first name that pops up since it's not Cody?
Rock is a number one. Rock is the first name on the list. I don't know how realistic and practical that is, but if you asked me, even if you're saying it's Cody or it's LA Knight, my first inclination is that it's Rock double headlining WrestleMania. He wins the belt night one and loses the belt night two.
Yeah,
Like,
you
that's
mentioned
my
you said that
first
on
inclination.
yeah, you said that on the episode we did, and I
But
like that
Roman should
idea.
keep this belt forever. He should keep it to beat Hogan's record. You have to rewrite Hogan's record. If you have the chance to rewrite and put a name above Hogan and it's Roman, you have to take advantage of that, which means Roman's not losing at WrestleMania.
Jesus
That means
Christ.
Roman's losing later next year. That's I think that's the more valuable. If you can, in a sport where you're scripting the record, if you can write a longer record, you write it because you have the opportunity. Otherwise, they're not going to get the chance to do this again. So you write it now, you have him hold it, and then the value is the next person's not even going to come close to Roman, but that's a modern era record now. Now you have that guy, and it's everything you could want in a champion in that vein.
I'm gonna repeat something I said once, and it's my dark comedy coming out of me. But I think the only person to defeat Roman is Roman. I think leukemia defeats Roman.
Oh man,
I know it's terrible, but I mean, think about that though. He has to go away because of this illness.
mm-hmm.
He goes on top. Nobody defeated
Mm-hmm.
Roman.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was able to do it. Nobody, and that is a big legacy to leave behind. Obviously, yeah. I don't want somebody to get sick. I'm fucking joking here, but that's to me like that's the only. I can't. I don't think The Rock should do it. I mean, The Rock. This is my perspective. The Rock defeating Roman negates everything that happened before. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're the best. Oh, you're the greatest of all time. Really? Because you're not as good as The Rock. And
100% agree with that. There's major flaws in having The Rock and that streak. It's only saying Roman was at the level of somebody who is so great. Michael Jordan had to come out of retirement to take LeBron off the throne kind of storyline. But you're absolutely right. Cody, LA Knight, Seth Rollins, Damian Priest turned the right direction. Whatever these things are, there is far more value in having the next generation or the next guy defeating Roman, I think. And that's kind of, to me, the list of who beats him and finally ends that run. Those are the names that come to the forefront for me as potential, or it's Logan Paul, and you give massive heat to somebody like that.
Oof, yeah.
Yeah.
My Mrs. RRBG's choice is Solo Sikoa. She thinks it's Solo.
I think the intrigue of the talk with somebody like Jey Uso beating him cracks me up because it's the storyline come to life without people. Like when they had their match, when Roman and Jey were wrestling and there was a chance that Jey was going to beat him for the title, I was like, but in real life, the bloodline is still in charge. Do you know what I mean? Like here they are running the business on television. They split up and they're against each other, but actually, one of the Anoa'i still has the belt. We've just passed, and to me, there's an amazing value in somebody like Jey elevating. Jey is a great option for somebody to come back, win the Rumble and go to Mania and finally say, so I'm going to top you. I know your weakness is better than anybody. I know what it takes to beat you better than anybody. Jey's a great option. Jey's phenomenal. Solo's great. But if we're going to lose it to a cousin, Jey has earned it and has the strongest run towards that belt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of all the Anoa'is and the great, main event, the one.
Yeah.
LA Knight was defeated. I mean, I picked Roman. I knew. So here's my issue. Everyone knew that Roman was going to win. Everyone. I don't think anyone really thought LA Knight was going to win in Saudi Arabia. They want him to win. Everybody wants him to win. The yeah movement is a thing. I wanted him to win, but nobody believed that he would. That's when you pull the trigger on letting him win. Because what a surprise. Like, what? What do you mean he won? Like, that's the shock, earth-shattering moment. And it would elevate LA Knight because obviously he just defeated Roman. He's the champ. And he could have a great run for like 6 months till SummerSlam or something and drop it back to Roman, whatever it is. But like, if you really want to shock the world and make headlines and go viral, that was the moment. Because now LA Knight has to rebuild. He's still on top, but it's kind of like what happened to Logan Paul. I see him following that path. Logan Paul faced Roman at Crown Jewel, lost. Then he had to kind of like, all right, feud with Ray, and he had a couple like little like Ricochet feud, which is cool because it was just like, oh, who's the most athletic, whatever. But I feel like now that's going to be LA Knight. LA Knight's now going to have to go down and like maybe he'll have a feud with Jimmy for a bit, and then maybe because of the Jimmy interference. I'm not saying LA Knight came out looking weak because he took it to him, and there was interference. And, you know, I know everybody's complaining that Roman's run and the interference is very repetitive and boring. But, I mean, how else would that have gone? Outside of, like, hey, fuck it. Let's just put it on LA Knight and shock the world. I think LA Knight now has to go fight Jimmy for a bit, maybe go after Logan Paul. I think a Logan Paul United States feud would be cool. But I don't know. Now I feel like he has to rebuild again. And he's 40, like 41. Like, it's not a whole lot of time.
Why do you think he has to rebuild? Why do you think a straight law? Why do you think a loss to the champion at a secondary event at your very first title opportunity with outside interference, where we're going to talk about how strong LA Knight really looks in this match? Why is it that one loss pushes him back down when this was his first time up at bat? Why is it that causes you to think he's now invalidated?
Because of WWE. It shouldn't be. He should go on to do big things and not have to rebuild. But it's just the track record of what happens to people when they face Roman. They get knocked down a peg. It's not just, I lost to the champ, but I'm still better than everybody else. For most of these people, it's all the champ beat you and get back in line. You know what I mean? Like, get all the way to the back. So that's just what's been happening. It's not that I want that or that it should be that way. I just feel like that's just what's been happening over the course of the last few championship reign defenses.
I understand that. So first off, this is a real question. How over do you think LA Knight really is at this moment? How over? Because I will tell you, my perspective on LA Knight is tainted, and I have worked with him. I know him. I have sat with him. I'm not close with him, but I know him. So my view of him, I knew him 8 years ago. Everything you guys see, everything everyone's saying, what Roman Reigns said about LA Knight on Friday night before their match, I heard before you guys ever saw LA Knight. Whatever criticisms or comparisons have been made, I knew about them. I also know I sat and watched him book an entire Royal Rumble for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I know him in a different way. So my perspective is one of those, you ever see a comedian rise up and you're like, how over are they with the crowd? Because I just know them from backstage. How over is LA Knight right now?
I mean, I don't
know. Over? Is he really over, or is this one of those partial ways over? How over is he?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, that's a hard thing to gauge. I knew Eli Drake before LA Knight. I know that. And I know that
same.
He's over in the way that Daniel Bryan was over during his Yes movement, which is very similar, especially in Saudi with the papers. I thought that was an interesting touch. You know, I don't want to say that he's a flash in the pan or whatever, how Paul Heyman booked it. I think he's legitimately over, but he needs some big moments. That's what I mean by rebuilding. He needs some big moments now post Roman to maintain that to truly get over. Because he's over, but I think if they were to if he stopped showing up right now, no one would care. I think it would eventually kind of dissipate. But if they bring him back and he's strong and doing big things and destroys Jimmy and I don't know, some things that could happen, then he would truly be over. I don't know if he's over enough to be the guy. I think that shock victory over Roman would have put him at that level. But I don't know. I don't think he's there yet.
I think he is on his way, and I am rooting for him to get there. I think he's selling more merch than just about anybody else right now, which is a huge indicator. I think he is that over. And I think that if you're going to create a true next level superstar, then what they're doing is the exact right thing, because if you push him too fast, the flash paper is going to burn out faster. But if you build and make them want and want and want, then he will be as over and as connected to the audience. And I think this match was the exact right thing he needed to truly build the next level superstar that he has the potential to be. And not, we say megastar, we say all those things, but you can't rush it from either end too fast. The match I would compare this to is Steve Austin against Shawn Michaels at King of the Ring. What was it, 97? Where they were kind of tag team partners, but then they were against each other, and it was a highly competitive match, but Stone Cold wasn't all the way over yet, but the match started to show that he was that competitor. But again, remember, Stone Cold didn't go from Austin 316 to the main event right away. He said that, and then it was a build and a build and a build in WrestleMania 13, and then a whole year of program to winning the belt. And then he was really only over when it was McMahon versus Austin. And then he's wrestling The Rock, and the peak is at WrestleMania 17. So that's a 5-year build from saying Austin 316 to beating The Rock at WrestleMania 17. LA Knight, everything they did that at Crown Jewel, to me, built the foundation for a real superstar. And the moment that I saw the match, I thought was incredible for what the match should have been. The moment that sold me was the intros, not the entrance. They're in the ring. They're introducing themselves. And when Roman's introduction comes up and he's raising the belt and they're like, from Pensacola, whatever, standing at whatever, the champion, Roman isn't doing his normal acknowledgement. He's jawing with LA Knight the whole time, which made it feel to the point where I was like, wait a minute. Is LA Knight upstaging Roman right now and being a real dick and trying to take the spotlight? Or are they working together to build a star by saying, I'm the champion and they're introducing me, but it's more important for me to look you in the that moment to me was the biggest show of Roman was giving to this performer and saying, you're valuable enough that I'm going to interrupt my own intro to argue with you over my introduction. Then all of a sudden, to me, that brought his superstar level to the next of that credibility. He's looking around. Roman's like, they're really chanting for this motherfucker. And then he's jawing in his face. And he's like, he's getting in. Do you remember that part? Because he's in LA Knight's face. And then you watch that whole match. You can catch when Roman and he are talking about how to build to that next level. We just posted that clip talking about pacing. There's a moment in that match where they're down and Roman's got him in a headlock and they wait and the crowd tells them to get up and they stand up and they're going again. I think this match was actually the exact match to build a real superstar, to say he can hang with Roman. This was his first shot, but this is the kind of thing that builds to him winning a Royal Rumble and earning another title shot. This is something that builds a real superstar and not just a flash in a pan, because as a performer, Roman was very giving to LA Knight through that match, which was a beautiful story arc to watch of let's see if you can hang. He hung with the big leagues, and it took outside interference to keep the belt. But to me, the most telling is that intro. Go back to anyone who hasn't, just go back and watch that intro, and they're just talking shit to each other through that whole intro. That's huge. That's a massive give to a performer.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I agree with you, and I hope. And I hope that now we continue to build, because like I said, the historical references are bad. Everybody, nobody goes back to that level. Maybe, but like it's taken a while for anybody to get back to that level. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a good movement for him. By the way, you dropped the name of the show, which was great. Outside Interference. Yeah, it's the story. It's the story of the Outside Interference is the story of Roman's reign, if you think about it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it is.
every match he gets outside interference. So I'm hoping. I like I said, I obviously knew Roman was going to win. I thought it was the right call. I mean, would it have been way more shocking otherwise? Sure. And I would have popped and I would have been super happy, but who knows where it goes from there. My concern is that it doesn't go anywhere now. So we'll see. It is a new era. Triple H is in charge, 100% supposedly. We'll see how it goes. We are on the road to Survivor Series. That'll be the next big pay-per-view. That's going to be on November. What's the date? I'm looking it up right here.
You want a war? You've got a war game.
War games. November 25th.
You want to play games? You want to play games? I loved Adam Pearce for his. He went full NWA mode on everybody. If you don't know, look up Scrap Daddy Iron Pierce, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce in NWA. He went, you want to play games? Oh, he was amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
It's gonna be a great match.
It'll be a fun match. It's weird that it's 4 and not 5. I mean, they could add KO and Jimmy to make it 5 down the road. We'll see. But it is exciting. I like War Games. It's fun. And I love Survivor Series. I really do wish they would do more of the old school teams. I'd like to see Team Cody versus... I mean, this is kind of...
You think they'll do that on SmackDown? It'll be Bloodline versus John, LA Knight, KO, somebody. You think they'll do that on the SmackDown side, maybe?
Yeah, probably. But that's the thing. I don't want it to be SmackDown versus Raw. It's so lame. I don't care about brands.
But Raw will get the War Games match. SmackDown will get the Survivor Series match.
That'd be cool. Hopefully, that'd be cool. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. But we'll definitely do another recap. I'm trying to figure out. And this is more for the fans. This is a Zoom episode. We were supposed to do it in person, but the Circle 6 crew that's helping us produce this show are in Japan right now doing a Circle 6 show, which is wild. So that's why we're doing a Zoom call to talk about this. We're trying to figure this out. I want to start doing live, like what you guys are doing with Store K, where we can watch Survivor Series live with some people. We're figuring it all out. So stick with us. Eddie, let people know where they can find you, follow you, and all those things.
Just check me out on Instagram and TikTok at I am Eddie Furth. Give me a like. Come out and see a show. Hit me up if you want to come see a show. I'm performing a bunch throughout the end of the year, and then No Laughing will be back. If not by the end of the year, early next year, we'll be back out there. So just follow me on Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. Please follow the show at Outside Interference Show. Follow me at RRGB Podcast. I'm going to try and do more of these. If you like this, if you want me to do more recaps and sooner, like closer to when it actually happens, because we have to space this out. We have to schedule a venue and production teams and all this stuff. So sometimes there's a little bit of a lag in terms of stories and our reviews of these stories. But if you guys want to see more accurate, like time sensitive stories from me, let me know in the comments and I'll start doing more of these. We'll figure it out. But dude, thanks again for your time. We'll see you next time for sure.
I'll see you next time. Yeah.
Cheers.